Right now, deep in the Thar Desert, something is rising from the sand that has China and Pakistan's military strategists losing sleep at night. India just activated the world's longest runway at 14,800 feet, long enough to land any military aircraft ever built. Fighter jets, transport planes, even a fully loaded C-17 Globemaster carrying tanks. If you think this is just another airbase, you're about to discover why this single location could rewrite the entire power balance in Asia. But before we dive in, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button and leave a comment. I subscribe. And I'll personally welcome you into the family. With that said, let's get started. But first, let me show you the terrifying problem this base was built to solve. Meet Wing Commander Rajesh Kumar. February 27, 2019. The day after India's Balakot airstrike. His Su-30 MKI squadron was scrambled when Pakistani F-16s crossed the border in retaliation. 12 minutes. That's all he had to engage before they could strike Indian ground targets. He radioed for backup. Twice. 3 times. The nearest reinforcement base? 47 minutes away by air. By the time they arrived, the entire engagement was over. He was alone out there. Here's the reality nobody wanted to admit. India had a 600-kilometer blind spot along the western border. Enemy aircraft could penetrate 150 kilometers into Indian airspace before interception. Pakistan's response time from their Surgodha airbase? 8 minutes. India's? 35 minutes. A 2020 RAND Corporation study showed that countries with forward airbases reduce response time by 73%. India didn't just need more planes. They needed those planes closer to the fight. For 2 decades, India's jets were arriving to battles that were already over. But the problem wasn't just Pakistan. Then in 2021, satellite images revealed something that made Pentagon analysts send urgent cables to New Delhi. China had built 7 new airbases in Tibet between 2016 and 2022. 7. Each positioned just 250 kilometers from Indian borders. Each capable of housing more than 50 J-20 stealth fighters, China's most advanced aircraft. Now, I want you to understand what this means tactically. Colonel Zhang Wei, a composite character based on leaked Chinese military documents, was a pilot stationed at Hotan Air Base in 2018. His mission brief literally included scenarios for first strike capability on Indian command centers. Chinese wargames simulated 400 aircraft overwhelming Indian defenses in 90 minutes. Not 90 hours. 90 minutes. A Carnegie Endowment report from 2022 laid it out in brutal math. China's new airbases gave them a 4-to-1 numerical advantage in the first 48 hours of any conflict. India wasn't just behind. They were being surrounded. Now imagine you're the defense minister. You're looking at these satellite photos. Pakistani F-16s to the west. Chinese J-20s to the north. And your response time is measured in the kinds of numbers that get people killed. What would you do? That's when Indian military planners pulled out a 50-year-old blueprint that everyone thought was impossible. This story actually begins in 1965. Air Marshal Arjan Singh, the only 5-star rank officer in the history of the Indian Air Force, proposed something that sounded crazy at the time. Build a massive airfield in the middle of the Rajasthan desert. The idea? Create an unsinkable aircraft carrier in the sand. A base so large and so strategically positioned that it could project power across the entire western border. But there was a problem. The technology of the 1960s couldn't handle it. Summer temperatures in the Thar Desert hit 50 degrees Celsius. Concrete cracked. Electronics failed. The base was built, but it remained semi-abandoned for decades, used mostly for basic training exercises. Uttarlai became a ghost base. A monument to an idea that was ahead of its time. Then 2019 happened. Balakot changed everything. The Indian Air Force realized they needed what military strategists call distributed lethality, multiple bases spread across the border so that no single point of failure could cripple their response. And Uttarlai? The location was perfect. 120 kilometers from the Pakistan border. 1,800 kilometers from Chinese air bases in Tibet. right in the sweet spot where India needed eyes, ears, and overwhelming firepower. But building it? That was the real challenge. They had to construct a runway capable of handling 40-ton Su-30 MKI fighters landing at 250 km per hour in 50-degree heat. The solution? A heat-resistant concrete mix infused with titanium dioxide, the first time this technology had been used in Indian military construction. The cost? 6,200 crores. That's $750 million US. Jane's Defense Weekly called it in 2024, India's most strategically positioned airbase in the subcontinent. After 60 years, the Ghost base was about to become India's ace in the hole. But here's what makes this base truly terrifying to India's adversaries, and it has nothing to do with the runway length. Let me show you the 5 hidden superpowers of Uttarlai that nobody's talking about. Number 5. The geographic advantage. Look at a map. Uttarlai sits at the tri-junction of 3 critical threat zones. Pakistani airbases to the west, Chinese positions to the north, and the Arabian Sea to the south. This means one base can monitor and respond to threats from 3 different directions simultaneously. During the 1971 war, India had to coordinate responses from 5 separate airbases to cover this same area. The communication delays cost them crucial minutes. But everything runs through one command center. A 2023 study by the Observer Research Foundation found that centralized command reduces decision-making time by 64%. In air combat, 64% faster decisions mean the difference between intercepting an enemy aircraft over the desert versus over a populated city. Number 4. Electronic warfare capabilities. This is something most people don't know. Uttarlai isn't just a base for fighter jets. It houses India's most advanced electronic warfare squadron. These are aircraft equipped with systems that can jam enemy radar, intercept communications, and blind missile guidance systems. During a conflict, these planes would take off first, creating what military planners call an electronic shield. Enemy pilots would be flying blind, their radars showing ghosts, their communications scrambled. Group Captain Vikram Singh, who commanded an EW squadron until 2022, explained it like this. Imagine trying to fight with a blindfold on while someone's screaming in your ear. That's what our electronic warfare does to enemy aircraft. A NATO exercise in 2023 showed that forces with dedicated EW support had 89% higher survival rates. Uttarlai's EW capabilities essentially make every Indian fighter jet in the region 89% harder to kill. Number 3. Hardened aircraft shelters. This base has 42 bomb-proof bunkers. Each one can withstand a direct missile hit from anything Pakistan or China currently has in their arsenal. Here's why that matters. To neutralize this one base, an enemy would need to expend more than 200 precision-guided missiles. Pakistan's entire cruise missile inventory? Approximately 300 missiles. Think about that. Taking out Uttarlai would consume 2/3 of Pakistan's missile arsenal, and India would still have 30 other air bases operational. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Each shelter is connected by underground tunnels. This means aircraft can be moved between shelters without ever being exposed to satellite surveillance or aerial reconnaissance. An enemy literally cannot track where India's fighters are inside the base. China tried to solve this problem in 2023. They repositioned 3 surveillance satellites to maintain 24-hour coverage of Uttarlai. India's response? They built false shelters. Decoys that look identical to real bunkers from space. Now China has to guess which of the 42 shelters actually contain aircraft. And guessing wrong means wasting million-dollar missiles on empty concrete. It's psychological warfare meets infrastructure design. Number 2. Rapid scramble capability. Meet squadron leader Meera Sharma. She's a composite of several pilots, but her story is real. She was one of the first female pilots permanently stationed at Uttarlai in 2023. During a war games exercise last year, her squadron launched 24 aircraft in 4 minutes. 4 minutes. From the alarm to wheels up, we shaved 6 minutes off the previous national record. In war, that's the difference between survival and catastrophe. The technical advantage? Distributed parking positions. Unlike Pakistan's crowded airbases where planes queue for takeoff, Uttarlai's layout allows simultaneous engine starts and launches. But there's more. The base uses what's called hot pit refueling. This means aircraft can land, refuel with engines still running, and take off again in under 12 minutes. In a sustained combat scenario, this effectively doubles the number of sorties a single aircraft can fly in a day. The Israeli Air Force pioneered this technique during the 1973 Yom Kippur War. It's credited with helping them maintain air superiority despite being outnumbered 3-1. India studied that war extensively. Uttarlai is built on those lessons. And number 1, the real game changer. The tanker advantage. Uttarlai houses India's IL-78 aerial refueling tankers. Now, if you're not a military nerd, that might not sound impressive. But let me explain what this actually means. These tankers extend a fighter jet's operational range by 1,500 kilometers. Suddenly, Indian jets based at Uttarlai can patrol the entire Arabian Sea to the west and the Bay of Bengal to the east without landing. But here's the tactical brilliance. With aerial refueling, an Indian fighter can take off from Uttarlai, fly a combat mission over the Arabian Sea, refuel in midair, then fly another mission over a completely different area before returning to base. One pilot, one aircraft, 2 different battlefields. Same day. The Mitchell Institute published a study in 2023 showing aerial refueling increases combat radius by 400%. Pakistan has no aerial refueling capability stationed near the Indian border. Their fighters have to return to base after every mission, a 90-minute round trip that leaves their airspace vulnerable. India's fighters? They can stay airborne for 8 hours straight. It's like comparing a smartphone to a landline. One keeps you connected wherever you go. The other chains you to one spot. India didn't just build a base. They built a force multiplier that shifts the entire regional power dynamic. Think about it. One location just changed the security calculus for 1.4 billion people. But there's a problem China and Pakistan discovered, and it's got their military planners in absolute crisis mode. In military theory, there's a concept called escalation dominance. It means having options your enemy doesn't have, being able to act while they can only react. Let me show you why Pakistan and China's strategists are tearing their hair out. They have 3 options. All of them are bad. Option A: try to destroy Uttarlai preemptively. This would require a massive missile strike. We're talking 200+ precision weapons. But here's the catch. That kind of strike would trigger immediate, overwhelming Indian retaliation. We're talking full-scale war. A 2024 SIPRI report showed that first strikes on modern hardened airbases have a 78% failure rate anyway. Most of the aircraft would survive, and now you've just given India justification to hit back with everything. There's another problem. Geography. To reach Uttarlai, Pakistani missiles have to fly over Rajasthan. India has layered air defense systems across this entire region. S-400 batteries. Akash missile systems. Spider units. It's not one wall. It's 5 walls, one behind the other. A missile getting through? Possible. 200 missiles getting through? The math doesn't work. Option B. Build counterbases. Pakistan's problem? Geography. They don't have vast desert spaces near the border suitable for massive air bases. Their terrain is either mountainous in the north or too close to major population centers in the south. You can't build a military megabase next to Lahore or Karachi. One Indian airstrike would cause massive civilian casualties. China's problem? They've already maxed out the Tibetan Plateau's capacity, the altitude and terrain limit where they can build. And there's the economic reality. India spent $750 million on Uttarlai. Pakistan's entire annual defense budget? $7.8 billion. They literally cannot afford to match this. China could afford it, but they're facing a different constraint. Building a base like Uttarlai takes 4 to 5 years. In that time, India would know exactly what China is doing from satellite surveillance, and they'd build countermeasures. It's an arms race China can't win quietly. Option C. Accept the new reality. India now has a 9-minute response time to western border intrusions. Chinese aircraft launching from Tibet now face 14 different Indian interception points before they reach critical targets. A former Pakistani Air Force analyst, speaking anonymously to a defense journal in 2023, admitted this. We ran the simulations 47 times. In 45 scenarios, we lost air superiority within the first week. Uttarlai was the variable that changed everything. For the first time in 75 years, India's neighbors are the ones calculating whether they can even afford a conflict. But does this mean India is now untouchable? Not quite. There are 3 vulnerabilities nobody's talking about. Let's be real for a second. Every strength has a shadow. Vulnerability number 3. Water scarcity. This is a desert base. It requires 500,000 liters of water every single day for operations, personnel, cooling systems, fire suppression. The nearest reliable water source? 85 kilometers away. India built a dedicated pipeline, but here's the problem. Pipelines can be targeted. In a prolonged conflict, if supply lines are cut, Uttarlai could become unsustainable within a week. India knows this. They've built massive underground water storage tanks, enough for 30 days of operations. But 30 days is not infinite. In a long war, logistics become the Achilles heel. Vulnerability number 2. Hypersonic missiles. China's DF-17 hypersonic glide vehicle has been operational since 2020. It travels at Mach 5 to Mach 10. That's 5 to 10 times the speed of sound. It can reach Uttarlai from Chinese launch sites in under 11 minutes. Here's why that's terrifying. Traditional missiles follow a predictable arc. You can calculate their trajectory and intercept them. Hypersonic missiles don't follow predictable paths. They maneuver in flight. They can change direction mid-course. A Congressional Research Service report from 2024 found that hypersonic weapons have a 92% interception evasion rate. India's current missile defense systems? About 40% success rate against hypersonics. That's not great math. India is developing its own hypersonic interceptors, but they're not operational yet. Estimated deployment? 2027 at the earliest. That's a 3-year vulnerability window. And vulnerability number 1. Cyber warfare. In 2023, Chinese hackers, according to reports by the Hindustan Times, penetrated portions of India's power grid systems. Modern airbases run on integrated digital networks. Communications, fuel management, weapons systems, air traffic control, all connected. One sophisticated cyber attack could disable critical systems without firing a single missile. Imagine this scenario. India detects enemy aircraft approaching. Pilots run to their jets. But the digital fuel management system has been hacked. Fuel pumps won't activate. Or worse, the system releases fuel at the wrong rate, damaging engines. Or the communications network goes down. Pilots can't talk to ground control or each other. The Brookings Institution wrote in 2024, "Cyber is the new airspace. The battles of tomorrow will be won or lost before a single aircraft takes off." Uttarlai is powerful. But it's not invincible. And India knows it. Which brings us to what's happening right now that could change everything again. Let me show you 3 developments happening at Uttarlai right now that aren't getting enough attention. Development number 1. The drone revolution. Uttarlai is currently testing India's Ghatak-UAV, an unmanned combat aerial vehicle. This thing can fly 1,000-kilometer missions without risking a single pilot's life. But here's what makes it revolutionary. These drones can operate in swarms. One human pilot can control 6 to 8 drones simultaneously. Imagine this. Pakistan launches 20 fighters toward the Indian border. India responds with 50 drones. The drones don't get tired. They don't feel fear. They don't make mistakes under stress. And they're cheap. A Ghatak-UAV costs approximately $50 million. A Su-30 MKI? $150 million. India can field 3 drones for the price of one manned fighter. Group Captain Anil Khanna, a test pilot who flew formation with the drone last month, described it like this. It performed maneuvers that would black out a human pilot. 12G turns. Sustained. It's like having a fearless co-pilot who never gets tired, never makes mistakes from stress. But there's a darker implication. If drones can do the job, why risk human pilots at all? India is quietly transitioning toward a hybrid force. Manned fighters for complex missions. Drones for everything else. By 2030, analysts predict 40% of Indian combat sorties will be flown by unmanned aircraft. Uttarlai is the testing ground for that future. Development number 2. Satellite integration. The base is now linked to India's NavIC navigation system and the EMISAT surveillance satellite. Real-time targeting data is fed directly to cockpits. Pilots see what satellites see, updated every 90 seconds. But here's where it gets truly advanced. India is testing AI-assisted target recognition. The satellite spots something. The AI analyzes it. Is it a tank? A missile launcher? A decoy? The AI makes a recommendation. The pilot makes the final decision. NATO ran exercises in 2024 that showed satellite-integrated forces have 3.5 times higher strike accuracy than conventional targeting systems. Fewer missiles wasted. Fewer civilian casualties. Higher mission success rates. But there's a vulnerability here too. Satellites can be jammed. They can be hacked. China is developing anti-satellite weapons specifically to blind enemy space assets. If India loses its satellites in the opening hours of a conflict, all this integration becomes worthless. India's answer? Redundancy. They're launching 12 new military satellites by 2026. Lose 3? 9 are still operational. And development number 3. The secret expansion. Satellite images from October 2024, provided by Maxar Technologies, show construction of 6 additional hardened aircraft shelters. The Indian Defense Ministry has refused to comment. But defense analysts are speculating these shelters are being prepared for India's AMCA, the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft. India's own stealth fighter, expected to enter service by 2030. If that's true, Uttarlai isn't just a present-day advantage. It's being future-proofed. Stealth fighters change the game entirely. They can penetrate enemy airspace undetected, strike high-value targets, and return before anyone knows they were there. Pakistan has no stealth aircraft. China has the J-20, but it's stationed over 2,000 kilometers away. If India bases stealth fighters at Uttarlai, they achieve what military strategists call first look, first shot, first kill advantage. They see the enemy first. They shoot first. And the enemy is dead before they even know they're in a fight. And here's the geopolitical ripple effect nobody predicted. Bangladesh just requested joint air defense exercises with India. Sri Lanka opened formal discussions for Indian aerial surveillance cooperation over the Indian Ocean. Even Nepal, historically neutral, is quietly exploring agreements for Indian air support in case of Chinese aggression. Uttarlai isn't just defending India. It's reshaping South Asian alliances. Countries are looking at India's air power projection and thinking, we want to be on that side. The base that started as a desert dream is becoming the backbone of regional stability. But here's the question nobody's asking. What happens when everyone has bases like this? When Pakistan somehow finds the money? When China builds 10 more in Tibet? Does Uttarlai still matter? Or does it just trigger an endless arms race that bankrupts everyone? Military historians call this the security dilemma. You build defenses to feel safe. Your enemy sees your defenses as a threat. They build bigger defenses. You respond with even bigger defenses. And suddenly everyone's less safe than when you started. Uttarlai might be India's ace today. But what if it's just the first card in a very long, very expensive game? Alright, here's what I want to know from you. If you were Pakistan or China's defense minister, what would be your next move? Do you try to take out Uttarlai and risk triggering full-scale war? Do you build your own megabase somewhere, even though the geography and money aren't on your side? Or does this entire analysis prove that conventional military bases are becoming obsolete in the age of hypersonic missiles and cyber warfare? Drop your strategy in the comments. And tell me, do you think a single airbase can really change the fate of 1.4 billion people? Or is this just military theater?